In this episode of An American Entrepreneur, we're going to visit a Dallas-based business called Decotron. They are an advanced fabrication studio that transforms ideas into iconic signs, sculptures, wall and store displays, as well as enhancing branded environments. So come join us. I think you'll really enjoy this video.
Basically, we make anything out of wood, plastic, metal, foam, concrete, any alloy of metal. This is our CNC machine here. It cuts out metal, plastic, wood, foam. It's a 3-axis, and it's got a 10-bit tool changer on it. And this is kind of our bread and butter for the shop. Over here we have kind of woodworking world. We're making right here we have one. We're making a reception desk.
That looks cool.
For an office building currently.
You guys designed it as well, I'm
Yep.
sure, huh?
Yep. We design them. We design, build, fabricate, and install, and do like initial concepts and renderings. Yeah. So we got our wood area here. Over here we got our metal department, where we do all of our TIG and MIG welding on steel and aluminum, stainless, copper. We've got various projects in different stages of production right now, kind of all over the place.
How many square feet is this building here?
We have 11,000 square feet. Here we have some custom ribbons that we're doing. These are light fixtures that kind of resemble the mycelium of a mushroom that's going in the ceiling of a steakhouse in Los Angeles. There's 140 of these pieces, and the rest of them are up on the top over there. And they all connect, and they wrap around these columns that kind of branches off kind of like mushroom mycelium. And then they all have lights embedded in the centers. We're really excited about that one.
You guys, I guess, are going to do the install as well?
Yeah, we're going to do an install, and that's going to be happening later this month. In here we have our painting and coating area.
It's strong too. You can smell it.
Yeah, it's strong. We get used to it. I rather enjoy it. So in here's our paint booth, and as you can see, we have some of these ribbons set up, getting the final coats on them. And this is basically where all the coatings happen. And I like it in here. It's very peaceful. So I guess come on this way, and I'll show you a couple other areas that we have.
So you keep a lot of your raw materials out here.
Yeah, there's our raw material storage on the left, and then here's our tubing, pipe, and flat bar storage right there. Sandbags, air compressor. Here is our panel saw. Got in here. That's our CO2 laser for cutting acrylic, wood, engraving, and etching in different materials. Yeah.
What else do we have here?
Let's see here. We've got Tool World over here, or Tool Galaxy, whatever you want to call it. And then one of my favorite rooms in here. Is our 3D print farm.
Okay.
So here we have some custom dimensional letters that are getting installed in Atlanta, and these are going to look like they're made out of old patinaed steel, and it's going to be for a big event. We're not allowed to say what the event is yet until after it happens, but that will be on our Instagram page.
Great.
I think we're doing PET G currently is the filament that's printing on these guys.
Forbidden Planet.
Forbidden Planet. As you can see, we're all sci-fi nerds.
I did a video of a guy that does sells these old movie posters and stuff over in Dallas. Really cool. Movie memorabilia, old posters,
cool.
yeah. Huh.
Yeah,
So what else we
old,
got
old
here?
movies. So we've got, here's our little design area in here.
Okay.
Where the design happens.
Back to the reception.
This is Aaron. He's
Hey, Aaron.
our master woodworker, lead designer, artist, engineer. And here's our lounge.
Okay. So you guys really like the nostalgic look, I see.
Oh yes.
It's really cool.
Modeled directly after my grandparents.
Okay. All right, Shane. So tell us about how you first got started in this business.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've always been an artist and inventor from when I was a little child, little baby Shane. My first job at 15 was at a sign shop, and I learned that I could actually have a job that I was able to be creative and use a little bit of creativity and artistry, hand skills for, kind of making a living, and I kind of saw that as like when I did that, I became like obsessed with science, and I was already kind of really obsessed with like architecture and like other visionaries and inventors of past eras, and I was always obsessed with like Art Deco architecture and Googie architecture from like the 1950s, Atomic Age, and I really was. So I worked at sign shops pretty much for most of my employed life, and then I was always the person at the sign shop where I was making everything look perfect, and the bosses in the various places that I worked were always like, this isn't, we're not making a Picasso painting here, we're making a sign.
Mass production.
Yeah, so I was always the
signs.
guy, and then I kind of compare it to like in Back to the Future 2 when Goldie Wilson was like, he's like, I'm gonna be mayor, and he's like, well, you could start by sweeping this floor, and he gave him the broom. So it was kind of like, I kind of had it in my mind that I was going to start my own thing where I was going to actually be able to to become known for making things look perfect and using a little more precision and perfection.
Well, did you immediately start out on your own, or did you start working from your house or your garage, or how did this start?
Yeah, so it started. So I was working at sign shops and other fabrication shops, and it was pretty much kind of mundane work. It was, some of it was really interesting, but most of the time it was kind of just generic signs and whatnot. So I would kind of do my own networking outside of work, and I just, I played music a lot when I was younger as well. So I became like friends with other business owners and venue owners, and they knew that I was working in this industry, so they were always like, hey, my brewery needs some custom beer tap handles. So I would take these side projects on, and it would get to the point where I was just taking these side projects on, and I would go to my boss and I would say, hey, I have this project I'd like to bring into the queue. And they were like, well, we don't really do that kind of work, but if you want to design it, sell it, and build it, we can take it on. And I was like super excited about it. So I started doing like everything, the sales, the design, the concepts on my own projects that I was bringing into the places that I was working at. And then it just came to like, there was like a breaking point when I had more work myself coming into the places that I was working at than the business actually had. And it was a lot more interesting and more gratifying and more fun to do, which is more in line with what I wanted to do. So that I kind of realized, had a epiphany that I was like, I don't really need the places that I'm working at. So from that point, I was in Salt Lake City at the time. I found a sign shop that was going out of business, and the partner in that business was getting rid of all of his sign equipment. There's like CNC machines, laser cutter, plotters, that kind of thing. So I kind of pitched an idea that I wanted to start my own business. And he became a partner in that business and gave me all the equipment that I needed in a partnership arrangement. And that was in Salt Lake City. And I started out as Venus Sign Company and kind of started doing all of my own custom, really unique ornamental projects through Venus Sign Company. And then COVID happened. I was right in the middle of moving buildings, and I decided that Salt Lake City, probably during the COVID crisis, wasn't really the best place for doing what I'm doing because it's kind of a smaller town. So I decided that Dallas was probably the best choice because it's a really financially stable city, and it's my parents moved here when I was 17, so I had a little bit of a connection here, and relocated everything down here. And since then, it's just been pretty much doubling every year, far beyond what I could have ever anticipated. You know, I kind of really necessarily didn't have a plan as to how it was going to go. I was just taking things as they come along and just making the best of the situation. And here we are, you know, starting from just me by myself. Now there's 18 full-time employees.
Did you, when you left Salt Lake City, did you wind up in this space right here?
No, this is the third building that I had in Dallas. First.
How long have you been in this building? Or how long have you been in Dallas?
In Dallas since 2020.
Okay, so that's not too long at all.
Yeah, not too long. And then at first I found a fabrication shop here that let me rent space at it. So I kind of started, when I came here, I was like, I didn't bring any of the equipment with me that I had in Salt Lake. I wanted to start from ground zero, kind of like the Amazon story, where it's like he started in his garage. So I wanted to do it the right way with no business partners, start off in the garage, and then I subleased a space of a fabrication shop and got to utilize all the equipment, and then grew out of that situation. Then I was able to afford my own building, and then I moved to my first building on my own, and which was not too far away from here, and did that, and then was able to fund all of my own equipment from the projects that we had coming in. And as I just kind of picked up an employee here and there, and here we are 5 years later with 18 full-time employees.
Well, how do you...
Pretty exciting journey.
I know, it's really amazing that such a short period of time.
Yeah.
And you've already grown so big. How did you come up with the concept of this business here? Because you're very unique compared to other sign companies. I know, like you mentioned it earlier.
Yeah,
but you've got a real niche here.
Yeah, I think so, and it's kind of
very art.
Yeah, it's very art-driven. It's very much modeled after more so the blend of my experience being infatuated with visionaries and architects merged with like operating a band. So kind of like I look at the business more so as like an orchestra, and I'm the conductor of the orchestra, and we're basically letting all the instrumentalists shine, as opposed to having it like a dictatorship, like the typical business model where there's like a president, CEO, that is, you know, you have to do everything my way or the highway. You know, I've worked in a lot of places like that, and I think that's an old, outdated system, and I've really modernized the way that works. And I feel that creating a comfortable work environment where there's full transparency on projects, how much things cost. I'm like educating the employees on like what things are worth and what things cost, keeping an open stream, whereas because previously I was working at places that kind of kept everything secret and hidden, and you kind of felt like a very big disconnect from the owner and from basically just being a part of the operation. So I really try to create a really stable and enjoyable work environment for the employees, because it's something that I never had being an employee.
What are some of the hats you wear here? I guess you do sales.
Yeah.
And
so
just tell us a little bit about that.
So
and you also do the bidding. And
yeah. And well, in the beginning, I was doing the fabrication, the CNC cutting, and the painting.
So you can do everything in here.
Yeah, I pretty much can do everything in here. It has been a little while now since we've been growing pretty rapidly that I've actually been in the back actually building things, but it's kind of morphed into where I'm just kind of like the conductor of the symphony, and I'm doing all the sales. I do all the initial concepts and the initial conversations, and now I have some project managers and a design staff that is able to I'm kind of partitioning off, like a job will come in, I'll get it to a certain point, and then I'll pass it off.
Well, I've seen some of your drawings laying around here, and they're very much like a CAD mechanical drawings to scale.
Yeah.
You guys have got it down to a science.
Yeah,
almost.
we've really perfected our tagline, which is artists, engineers, and fabricators. So I feel like we are a good convergence of those three elements, which are key to this industry. Doing something creative in a commercial workspace. So you have to have the professionalism, you have to have the 5-star customer service, mixed with the artistry, the fabrication skills, and the engineering.
As far as when someone approaches you and they tell you, I want some kind of elaborate sign or whatever, or even that receptionist desk you've got going on over there, do you charge people for some type of initial designs? How does this work? How does it go from the initial contact to we've built it?
So in the beginning, a lot of other businesses are charging for design work, and it's like our design expertise is pretty top notch. Like, I mean, a lot of us have degrees in engineering and CAD modeling, and so we are kind of, a lot of places will charge for design, and
because someone could just say, no, I don't want to do it, and take the design somewhere else.
That is definitely true. But we don't charge for design time. In the beginning, I was charging for design time, and then I just figured most of the time, a client will come in, and no one really wants to pay to find out how much something is or what it's going to look like.
So you build it in the overall cost.
So it's pretty much built in the overall cost. But what it's allowed is basically anybody coming in for wanting a project, we'll kind of do just an initial concept to kind of show what it's going to look like. And we've just done that so many times that we've become really fast and very efficient at getting a concept. Like, someone will come in for a really big high-end custom project, and in 2 days we have a price quote and an initial design. Whereas the places I was working for previously, it would take them a good 2 weeks or a good month because it was a very compartmentalized company. Whereas we're more like, almost like an anarchist business model where we're like all on the same level playing field, and we have, we'll all converge our heads on an idea or concept and just expedite something, and we're able to like engineer and create the artistry and visuals and design for something with a bid in minimal amount of days, 1 to 2 days generally.
Well, cost-wise, as far as working with the clients, what price ranges do you work in? You seem to me to be sort of a pretty high-end.
Yeah, we are definitely high-end fabrication and high-end build-outs for pretty much any commercial environment or exterior or interior sculptures. We, as far as price range, I mean, obviously in the very beginning, like 5 years ago, we were like, $5,000, $15,000 projects. Now we're more in the realm of like $700,000 projects, $300,000, $100,000, kind of in that realm. I think our average is probably like $150,000 a project if we did an average. And most of our clientele is high-end restaurant groups, art curators, other design agencies, commercial builders, property developers, urban development, some city jurisdictions.
Well, how'd you come up with the name Decotron?
So Decotron is so obviously my obsession with Art Deco architecture and the movie Tron, like the futuristic visions of like lighting and just technology. It merged with like this organic, futuristic vibe. It's just kind of like the signifying the convergence of like the past and the future, and then we're in between in the present.
What are some of the challenges you've learned that you wish you knew when you first got started? Or I guess did you already kind of know because you've been in the business so long?
Well, I mean, the challenges are more so just the organization. As we're growing, keeping the organization growing with the growth is, I think, just that's the most challenging part. As far as anything else, we've become very good at, every project we do is completely different. Very seldom do we have a repeat of a project. So I call it practicing the art of not practicing. So like every project, we're doing something we've never done before. And what that does is allows you to become very good at doing something you've never done before, and efficient and effective at being able to quote it, foresee all the challenges before any price is given, knowing what kind of environment it's being installed in, the entryway that we have to bring equipment in for doing an installation. And that's the exciting part for me.
Well, since you're dealing with such high dollar projects, do you require progress billings
Sometimes. Sometimes
or
we
even
have
deposits?
Yeah, I mean, most of the time it's a 50% deposit, 50% when it's done. There are some net 30 projects. We did a project for the NTTA, and they paid after the project was done, no deposit. So occasionally there's a company that just from their guidelines, they won't be able to give a deposit. They'll just pay 90 days after it's completed. Most of the time it's 50% deposit, 50% after the installation. Sometimes it's 30% down and several progress payments in the duration of like a 6-month build on some of the larger high-end projects.
What's the average length of time it takes to build these projects?
I mean, let's see. I mean, it's like on some of the really high-dollar projects, a good 4 or 5 months. On some of the larger ones, which are very vast and require a lot of engineering stamps. For instance, one we're doing in LA right now, it's got to be rated for earthquakes and anchoring in concrete using the correct anchors and mounting system, and that's kind of like that's exciting for us. I mean, we're pretty much where all of our brains are in that realm and find enjoyment in figuring out how things are going to go together and come together to create the final end product.
So do you have a separate crew that does just installations, or they do installations and also work in here and help out in the fabs?
Yeah, so pretty much, I mean, most of the employees are all man-at-arms. So they're,
multi-talented.
Everyone's multitasking, wearing multiple hats. And that's kind of the person that we kind of attract as far as an employee. And then we have a couple people that are kind of learning those trades, because it's kind of hard to find somebody that knows literally everything, because we're working with every medium from wood, plastic, metal, foam, concrete. Generally someone will come on board and has experience with wood and metal, and then they'll learn how to do plastic fabrication or like different material cuttings and finishes. And so pretty much we basically train everybody to just know how to do everything. And it just makes for a much smoother operation, because it doesn't mean that it's not compartmentalized like you would expect, where there's like just the person that only touches metal, just the person that only touches wood.
Well, it's good to cross-train.
Yeah, and it's cross-training, and it makes it exciting, because
Yeah,
you don't really get
boring.
that mundane kind of like monotonous feeling of just doing the same thing every day. So everybody's pretty much doing something exciting every day.
Is this business seasonal, or is it pretty much steady year-round?
No, it's steady. It's steady all year round. I think in the very beginning, the months of November and December were kind of slow, but now, I mean, our project bank is full pretty much at all points in time. I mean, but as we're growing, we are nowadays most of the clients, they need something yesterday, and instead of fighting that, which is most of the places that I've been a part of prior to operating on my own, they would have, we're not going to be able to touch your project for 5 months, and then that client would move on to another person. Instead of having that mindset, I've embraced you need it next week, we'll make it happen. And then that's kind of what allowed us to kind of grow more rapidly, because as that happens more often, we just need to, we staffed up to be able to satisfy these really short time frames on what would be thought of as being a very highly complex project that would normally take 4 to 5 times the amount of time.
Okay, cool. So what are some of the other challenges you've learned as far as just business in general?
Business in general, I think, well, the challenge is, like right now we're in the process of purchasing our building and the next 3 properties next to it, so we can expand. So we know we won't have to move at a later point in time as we're pretty much growing out of this building. So I guess the challenges is kind of more the business logistics, because I'm very right-brained. I did not come from a business background. I have no education in business. I basically learned how to do it the wrong way before, and when I was in Salt Lake City, and then when I came here and did a reset, I got some advice from people that were successful that I were kind of more as a mentor I looked up to, and just operated and did it the correct way, with actually listening to people, because sometimes you're stubborn and you don't want to take advice.
A lot of
from
people
somebody.
just have to make the mistake.
Yeah, and I made the mistakes initially and then did it the correct way this time. And I think it's just being open to criticism, being open to seeing how other people are doing things and just kind of like learning from other people's mistakes and successes, and just being able to like isolate and identify the differences. And I think that's what's allowed me to become better and more successful at the business end of it. And then also having several left-brain people around me at all points in time, because we're basically all equal to one super brain.
Well, I know that you always have multiple jobs going on at the same time, which makes sense. How do you accumulate the costs for every job as far as materials and labor? What's your process for that?
Well, I basically and as we're moving along and we're doing these projects, I found that, I can be fully detailed and map out the entire cost of the project, where I'm breaking it down to the adhesive tape, to the nuts and bolts, all the hardware, the metal, the welding time. And then basically I looked at all of the larger projects, all the smaller projects, and the medium-sized projects, and I took all the material costs from those and I set them aside, and then I figured out the multiplication factor to just basically look at the materials. And there's 3 models where I have fabrication heavy, design heavy, or material heavy. And then there's 3 different configurations of that. So I basically came up with multiplication units that I can take the material cost on a design heavy project and have a multiplication factor of just the materials. And that puts me within a couple $1,000s of where it would be if I spent an entire week.
So that's your
how we're
bidding
able
process.
to quote. That's
Your
how we're able
quotes.
to quote very quickly and effectively, and be price competitive for anyone else doing this sort of work.
So you're not doing like time sheets and actual materials for every specific
Well,
job?
no,
all
it
the
is.
time?
It is.
You are doing that.
It is
out in the
specced
field?
out for the materials. So
Okay.
basically,
Why, the
what
materials,
will
how
be
about labor?
very finite and detailed will be the actual materials needed to do the project, and then it's just kind of looking at the multiplication factor. And sometimes I'll break it down to where it's really finite and everything is laid out, so I can see exactly where we're going to be at. But most of the time now I'm getting comfortable with my multiplication factors. It's taken me several years to be able to get that down pat and figure out those
Just with
multiplication
experience.
numbers. Yeah, from having something priced a little bit under what it should have been, and then some things that were priced correctly, and I'm kind of like looking and balancing that and just seeing how to be more efficient in that. And what that's allowed me to do is be able to come up with pricing very quickly on what would normally be very complex.
Do you ever do change orders? Do people decide, I really want to do, instead of it, 8 by 12, I want it to be 12 by 20?
Yep,
Or I guess
yep.
you have a formal change order process?
There is a formal change order process. We tend to be pretty lenient depending on what the scope of the project is. So, we're not, we're obviously, there still is obviously a charge for a change order, but we're very sympathetic to, because normally when somebody's, selecting something, multiple items for an entire build out of a commercial environment, there's a lot of things that maybe there were not enough input on one of the elements, and as we're going along, they're like, oh, we want to change this. So we try to be as sympathetic as possible to situations like that and allow for someone to feel comfortable knowing that they can make a change instead of, most of the places I'll go back to most of the places I worked for before. There would be a change order, and they'd throw a big fuss about it and charge a massive percentage, which we still charge obviously for a change order, but we understand, because we're also artists, and we also understand what the creative process is like, and what the process is to come up with your final idea and vision that you have for the space.
If somebody wanted to start a business like this, what are a couple of pieces of advice you would give them that you think would really help them get started on the right foot? Besides have a lot of money.
Well,
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Well, no, but I
know
had
you
nothing. I had nothing starting out.
The way you started
with
was
zero.
really unique, though, because you were working somewhere and they let you bring in the jobs.
Yeah.
Then you grew that organically and then went off on your own. So you did not really have that leave a great job, high paying, and start something from zero.
Yeah.
But you still built something, don't get me wrong.
Yeah, I still built it. I mean, it's like...
But you didn't have that fear of it just morphed into you working for yourself. I think that's so cool how you did it.
Yeah,
But what are some pieces of advice if someone wanted to do a business like this?
Well, I think having the mindset of enjoying the journey of it instead of bumming yourself out when things aren't going your way. And I think that that's the most important thing because, you know, in doing this, there are some hurdles, obviously, that you're going to encounter, and you such as not having enough money to
cash flow,
not having enough money to make payroll next week, or you know, just the growing pains of growing. Obviously, we're buying the equipment as we need it, you know, most of the time. Or I mean, we've done that until we have pretty much everything that we need currently, and you know, that was probably the hard part. But it's kind of enjoying the journey of that as I would say would be the best advice, instead of fighting the stresses and depression of, oh my gosh, how am I going to make payroll next week because A, B, and C is going on, and we're not going to get the deposit or the remaining balance for this duration of time. I think it's pretty much.
That's when those deposits help.
Yeah, the deposits
like,
deposits help.
The
Remaining
deposit
balances help. Pricing things correctly is what basically keeps you successful and going, because you know, you go into a slum of pricing things incorrectly and losing, you know, a significant chunk of money on a project, on a very large project that's like $300,000 or $400,000, and if you don't have a lot of money in the bank that you came from, you're going to be in a bad situation. So, being very conscious of that, and just enjoying the journey, and knowing who to get for what you need. So it's like, I know that I'm right-brained, and I know that I need some left-brained people around me to help keep me more analytical. Because I tend to be more of a visionary person and mindset, and I like to have left-brain people around me to be able to tie me back into a little bit of analytical thinking. So I've learned to obviously be left-brain from experiencing that. So I can play a left-brain person on TV, but I'm definitely 100% right-brained, and not a whole lot of right-brained business owners.
Oh, right. That's very true.
Yeah, I think most business owners are left-brained.
Right, very visionary. Speaking of visionary, what are your goals or plans 3 to 5 years from now? I know, of course, you're buying these other properties.
We're buying these other properties, and we're just going to expand that way. And I think, you know, as this is growing, we just want to keep acquiring more equipment for increasing our capabilities and doing really large public art sculptures. That's kind of our main focus, is large public art displays. Whether it's like a sculpture or big, just kind of like artistic element to a environment or space, whether it's outside or inside, and that's kind of the most exciting projects that we get in. And obviously, doing things with like new technology, lighting. We love incorporating lights in different like LEDs. We've done things with fiber optic, with solar, and try to, you know, keep our ideas fresh and stay up to date with what is available, what is being developed and engineered in the lighting world. And we've also have some, we actually created the first ever fiber optic sign on the planet. That was back when I was in Salt Lake City. And
you have a picture of it?
Yeah, I have a picture of it.
Give me a picture of it.
That was the most exciting project I've ever done. It was the first, I mean, I basically wrote the rule book on how it was done, from just prototyping, having a lot of free time when I was starting off, messing around with fiber optics. And one of my goals is to be able to convert a casino in the future to go from neon to fiber optic, because it's about in between 5 to 100,000 times less energy consumption than neon.
Oh yeah.
So normally, a big casino in Vegas has got about maybe, I don't know, 50, 80 square linear miles of neon in there. Their electric bill's $500,000 a month, maybe more, from just the neon power consumption. So converting that to fiber optic would be drastic energy savings, better for the environment, but then also it does have the nostalgic and futuristic factor, which is Decotron.
So any of you casino owners out there, hit this guy up. So what are some of the trends you're seeing right now as far as these kinds of signs, these custom built signs and artwork? Is there a specific trend?
Yeah, the trends are generally price competitive, comparing apples to apples, basic channel letter signs, which are very popular. We definitely try to push the envelope. Whenever we get a sign project in, we really shoot for making something unique that is, has never been done before, or the way that we would do it for the application, or just creating something that's kind of mimicking and mirroring the architecture of a building Whereas like, you know, if you have a nice Art Deco building and your branding is like modern, futuristic, kind of merging those two things into the sign frame, the architecture of the structure that's holding the sign, and then the text. So basically marrying the brand with the building that it's existing in.
Well, speaking of brand, you also do branding.
Yeah,
I saw that on your website.
Yeah. We do branding. Generally, what we'll do with that, we don't really do. I mean, we have the capabilities and the skill sets to be able to do like large scale branding campaigns for a big company. But what we kind of get the most enjoyment in doing branding is for instance, for a small business. A small business is opening up. They want us to do their entire restaurant interior. They have a logo, and they give us the vector artwork for the logo, and it's like, you know, you look at it and you're like, that could be a little bit better. So then we'll generally help that, because basically what it is, it's helping them, and it's also helping us.
Just adding value.
Yeah, we're adding value to them. So we don't, for marketing, instead of doing a marketing budget and advertising, we'll put our marketing budget strategically into projects that we feel could utilize a little bit of a boost. So like, for instance, on a company that could use a little bit better logo, we'll pitch the idea to them, and if they're open to it, then we make something that looks cooler for us to make, that looks cooler up on the building, and that allows them to have something cooler, creating their presence in existence.
I guess you've experienced a job that significant overruns, you lost a lot of money on it. How did you deal with that? How did you handle that?
Well, I mean, I don't really put any weight in if that happens. It's happened.
Chalk it up.
It's happened a couple times. You know, something was not bid correctly, and instead of, you know, making everyone suffer for it and beating myself up about it, you know, I move on and you know,
just learn
from the mistakes, because it's like, if you enjoy the journey, you're gonna not be bogged down.
Once in a while.
Yeah. It's gonna happen occasionally, because I mean, we're doing everything we do has never been done before for what we're doing, you know. So for that project, so it's kind of like, you know, we just become really good at estimating any variables and situations that could occur, and getting those to where we're always on our 45-degree incline.
So what other piece of information about this business you'd like to share? Anything maybe that I missed that you'd want to share with us?
Well, pretty much. I mean, you know, obviously, I started Decotron, but the existence of the company itself would not be anything without the employees that have kind of come together to join this, I would call it, band of fabricators and artists and engineers. And I'm very grateful to have a really amazing work team that really has a passion and care for what we're doing and making things look the way they need to look for our clientele. And I'm very grateful for having, you know, everybody in the support from my family and friends and all of the employees. And that's pretty much what makes a very comfortable work environment. And I think it's contagious when other people come in here and they kind of want to model their business after kind of like the vibe and energy they have when they walk in the doors here.
Shane, I appreciate you coming on, sharing your story, man, and I can't wait to come back and check out how these other buildings are coming along, because I know you're going to fill those up quick, man.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks a whole lot.
Thank you.
I think the biggest takeaway Shane shared is how he doesn't turn customers away by making them wait 4 or 5 months before they start a project. They do whatever it takes to get the job done. This avoids these potential customers from going elsewhere. I hope this video added value and you enjoyed it. I'm Curtis Mulberg. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.